That's a nice introduction. Is this microphone kind of weird? Okay. Is that better? That's worse. Should I just not use it? How's that? It's creepy. Because it has like an echo. I could just... Do you want me to talk? Okay, does that sound good? It's better, closer? Okay. Because it's... Okay, I don't know what... I could guess everybody's name. How's that sound? Okay, because I could not use it to... You have to have it. Okay. Well, that sounds good, huh? It's just... There's not... It doesn't sound like there's two of me. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So I will read from the Plot Genie, and I'll describe a little bit about how the book came into being. There was a plot generating device that was created by an ex-silent screenwriter named Wycliffe A. Hill in the 1930s, and it came with a cardboard wheel and volumes of different genres like detective, mystery, action, adventure, comedy, romance without melodrama. And the idea was that the writer was supposed to spin the wheel and get 9 numbers and, devise a plot. And it was widely used by Hollywood screenwriters and pulp fiction writers, and apparently also serious writers. But no one liked to admit it, so we really don't know what it actually generated. And they're rare books. My husband's a crime novelist, and he was surfing around on the internet looking for plot, and so that's how the book came into my house. And I didn't use it as it was designed to be used. I didn't use it as a chance operation or anything like that. But I was very enchanted by the volumes themselves because they just sort of reeked of, having been used by a lot of other writers. They had, pencil markings on them, and they were the covers were very worn, and, they'd been used a whole lot, and they just carried a kind of aura about them. So what I became intrigued with was the characters that I imagined that were trapped inside the system waiting to be dialed up. So how I began to write the book is that these characters started to come to me of my own invention. So the characters there's E and R, who are lovers who never end out in the same plot, but they meet on the sly occasionally. And their love letters are delivered by Comedy Boy, who's a messenger for them. And then there's Handsome Dead Man, and there's Redhead. There's Miss Jane Sloan, who is a writer, and there's Tiger, who's sometimes spelled with an I and sometimes with a Y, as like Blake's Tiger. And then there's a whole throng of unnamed characters that come to the reader as pronouns, and they are just a whole throng of people that are marching around in the underworld of the Plot Genie, also waiting to be dialed up. So I'll just start reading from the first poem. So everything sounds good? Okay. All right. Okay, and so the first poem I'm going to read is a long poem that's in different sections, and it's called The Plot Genie. If a person is fawning or obsequious to another, to remove a taboo, to be rid of carping, the desire to obtain possession of a key, insanely jealous love. We are here to escape payment of a lost wager, to secure life insurance, to escape an abomination. Evening, white sand, a small distant figure, tiny sultan, or a speck on the windshield stirring. A natural reality of white summer of white pains. Once a handsome dead man was floating on the pool. White sand's small distant figure came into view, and you felt a pang of delight under your skull as we drove on, speck on the windshield stirring in white summer of white pains. Then home to read night's starry dismemberment of book, Hamlet's toque feather drifting down Mallarmé's page, and come morning, we were going up to Portland, backing out the car. It was day. A moose was sighted in the forest. A bus decayed in its interior. The palace gate swung shut. Lo, evaporating trails of night terror of what happening, the getting there of next. Let me introduce Miss Jane Sloan, head of the department, and a very capable authoress, dozing off in an armchair near the window, near nature producing its unidentical designs, the chasm side of a stick of butter. The Plot Genie is baking a pan of biscuits. The Plot Genie is one of the most virile helps which has ever been devised. Someone is falling into an ancient cave comfort, barely touching another origin, dialing a unique number and none other, holding the Plot Genie in the hollow of an arm while careful not to bend, spinning while out the palace gates trots a horse color of gray, dark splotch. Soon we are approaching the studios to say, was it better than a painting? To get even with someone? To use a colloquialism in the light of a game or a sporting event? In the house of shadows, the shadow of the house. In the house, I hear nothing but laughter, weaponry, airy plumes on helmets, war relics, and attic wasps. In the dusty corners, parasitical words having drunk of an antiquity by whose forces Europe ruled. The house resting blankly in wintry afternoon, curing in the sun like a little ham. The Plot Genie's hand reflected in the lake, her hand smudged in the flat, calm glare. In a bunkhouse, underworld dope den, back of a music hall, in a bachelor's apartment. Betty, then Veronica, meticulously dressed in the margins. Archie never drawn too quickly, but with patience, exactitude, in the white rapids he might one day shave from his face, always speaking in the simple human tongues that Sappho kept going, admiring their clarity. To be free, and 21, to be born into a lush landscape and to come back to it in a box, as if in an old evening suit. The genie tells you what happens and you listen, as if in repay for the years the swarming locust has eaten. The genie tells you what happens, and then along come still others to explain. If you still don't get it, the Plot Genie repeats. As a child, Miss Jane Sloan came upon a diamondback rattler. On a Girl Scout day camp, s'mores and wieners, old gray sheds, blisters and sunburn, at least one case of bull nettle rash on a bare ass. Motes drifting above weedy path like automata surveying an earlier globe. The diamondback did not rattle. In hot noon sun, pungent sulfur smell of snake, the child body of Miss Jane Sloan alarmingly tangible as she walked backward. Nervous spasms beneath her white socks, high grass parting like disinterested third person standing aside to let her pass, to let her back so far away, just far enough away so she could still see, where Look, there is a wooden bench just strong enough for her to stand on. It was a beautiful sunny day. A peculiar speech signal could be overheard between suspects. I was afraid I was about to permit an unrecognized sister to starve. A relative had decided to jump a bail bond. Part of a body, or a portion of the spoils, was found in the possession of the subject. And Miss Jane Sloan went down. She went down the white road of aftermaths, no Titanic. She went down the alterations of, to the barely beyond, where everything was begging everything to come back to where we live. When Miss Jane Sloan closed her eyes, she could feel slight neuronal embraces caving in, tuned to the vibration of other tormentresses. Whatever sulks there, the dust eliminated. Destiny is a world apart. To remove a taboo, to be rid of carping, is the desire to obtain possession of a key. The desire to bring about a reformation, to overthrow authority, is to satisfy an appetite. The screen is the desire to produce a phenomenon, how much everyone needed a glass of water. We are here to escape payment of a lost wager, to secure life insurance, to satisfy a horoscope, to defeat a plot, the river's sheen, to possess an abode, our virgin torso, to be refused forgiveness, to escape from a master, to get relief from a monstrosity or abomination. A line of boxcars slides open, completely frontal, to escape a carousel. And this part of the poem is in the shape of a wheel. Safe night world, dark diatomaceous street, door open, long hallway, long wet bar, shoulder hunch, bright silver drink, wet bar rag, stairs of crickets, half-hatched plans, double-cross two, time of redemption and time to define excess before plummeting, are stuck in a web and wait, with one winged bird taunts ocelot on leash, a vast grotto, finite, infinite, infinite, finite, infinite, hup, 2, 3, 4, characters creeping up the alley, the most non-existent of faces turned away, lit severally, turpitude of tawny fronds of tide pools, maw opens maw, something wants to say something, wants not to be, something says, then wants to. A blank photograph arrives in the mail. What to do with it, like one silk stocking throughout the war. Out of wet pools of blotting paper comes a coal rose. If with her all of life went by, since there was a child with a drum, why I interrogated her left-behind straw, or the cast-open portal and situation gallow to a realm of a friend and his friend starting by airplane on their hunting trip, never to return, because the book's oily covers contain the body they were looking for. House a-twitch, within the welcoming shouts of a far-off companion. If you read her chapters on the Atlantic, or as is said of the dead, she had worn her jacket under your jacket. Very low down, very high up, the alone rolling toward the alone along her optic seacoasts. Okay. And the next poem is called Culte du Moi. And in this poem, it's a prose poem. This is one of the poems where there's it's a pronoun. It's one of the unnamed characters who's speaking, and there's an image in the poem that if we all had typewriters and were typing at the same time, there was a terrific sound that used to be made before computers came in. I had a job once at the Dallas Morning News. It was 1970. 78, 79, right around there, and it was, the newsroom was probably maybe 4 times the size of this room, and everyone had a typewriter, and so the sound was fantastic when everybody was in there writing. And anyway, there's, just the image. You get an oral image of that at the beginning of the poem. Okay. That's a sound I miss a lot. But we are captains of fatigue. The sound is an enterprise. Serial balconies along the street. I miss the sound of typing one letter at a time and many machines typing letters at the time. When I was loping through the yard one day, I felt like Whitman. It was the closest I got to feeling like a man, though sometimes in pickup trucks there was Paul Bunyan. Once, under the dappling elms, I became two innocent boys who kicked a basketball onto the lawn of the scary man's scary house. And when the scary man came out to chase the boys away, whose basketball it was, he died of a heart attack. He was so angry and unable to speak the basketball, the word basketball, as when you open your mouth and nothing comes. We are captains. So far, over 6,000 of us have died, depending on who you talk to. Our bodies are imitations of the spirit, and our statues are imitations of imitations, a la Aristotle. Our bodies hang from rafters, magnolias, lampposts, and telephone poles. When all has been said and has been argued to no end, it begins to rain on the pictograph. Our buses reek worse than the people on them. Our buses carry us anywhere. They are extraordinarily accepting. Urine reeks but rarely stains. When you get down to it, you smell it much more often than you see it, unless you look back, and I try to take off my steaming boots. I can't give away my sleeping dogs. A pinafore, a pianoforte, a fugue. I got the best job in the world by just being myself, and then I fell forward, arms lifted, into a pause of music, arrested in the idea, with my eyes closed. I am usually happy to do anything for art, but this was a job, not a wandering aim. I got it, and then I quit so as not to ruin. I tried to tell everyone everything I thought they wanted to hear, then I became a captain of fatigue. Once a plagiarist tried to steal me, but I ran and ran faster into a tumbling, refreshing stream. Then I stood in a long line waiting for bread. Her Lawrence brought his face home, still burning to death from the war. No one comes to thank the steam for the engine. No one regards the cow when you can get the milk in fraying grids of lace. I plan the day in finding in Poe a soul brother by whose insight I might maintain my own different, negress-warmed and orient-colored spirit, a growing boy of uncommon experiences and opportunities. I usually see a house in the distance. Okay. Okay, so this one, do you want something kind of dark and creepy? This one, in this one you get Handsome Dead Man, and E and R are in it, and Redhead is in it. Okay. And it doesn't really have a title. The book is meant to be read sequentially, so I am reading it sequentially, but I'm skipping around sequentially. Okay. Across black asphalt carved into gum mastics and jungle fern, if house is meadow, if house is brain, if long red lies the tide and action is abated, among others who are, we were trying to quit the world and head straight into larval stage of indigenous waters on flat raft, R with golden sickle, E with moonstruck veil, burning her card of the old maid. Comedy Boy was just thinking, if E and R would get into that dinghy, I would no longer have to travel between them in resinous breath of cosmicity's piney woods, as if I am on leash of vestigial lizard tail. Redhead wanting me to dye her eyebrows and pluck out her mustachios. Handsome Dead Man rising in room after room, lighting cigarettes room after room. Handsome Dead Man giving a small laugh, saying things like, I'd like to show you I'm not talking out the back of my neck. laughing in the sunshine, in a tired-looking raincoat, in the excellency of going on, in a tired-looking raincoat. R, you mean we can't win? E, no, we can't win. Handsome dead man giving a small laugh in a tired-looking raincoat. I'd like to show you I'm not talking out of the back of my neck. Before a glass-fronted building, in the sunshine, in the raincoat, pensive. A man goes to the doctor and says, "Doc, I'm not feeling so well." "Okay," the doctor says, "I want you to tell me a typical day. What you do from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed." "Well, I wake up and I vomit, and then whoa, wait a minute, you do what? You wake up and you vomit?" "Yeah. Doesn't everybody?" I'd like to show you I'm not talking out of the back of my neck. All those people they put in the death house. The death house. Hey, Doc, here comes the DA. Okay, this poem is called Schools of Thought, and it has to do with the theory of inflationary cosmology, which is basically sort of a revision of the Big Bang theory, in which the Big Bang still happened, but instead of there being the idea of one universe, there are many, the multiverse theory, there are many universes of which we are replicas of. You'll get it when I read the poem. Some of you are probably familiar with the theory, which is very much heralded. Stanford physicist, whose name is escaping me right now, came up with the theory. Schools of thought. The world is a weird luminescence, a greenish glow, unhinged. It is unruled by a dowager, an empress, a Madonna, a lopped-off head, a great red disk. We lay sleeping in the arbor vitae and cypresses and ferns, unsurprised and semi-conscious, not knowing which is more fictional, the hand in the book or the book in the hand. All-powerful nudes stepping into showers, our bodies a series of planes best rendered in oils. We are not untouched by modernism, though to stay modern is too much work. Most ideas have their secret motives. The earth has its arenas cross-cutting on top, under, inside, combusting far away into a space probe. The future is a probe, tied to its fear of stopped time, or the half-memory of a kind of cyber hell in which we fled the hedged passage, sun-spun the bureau for the fleece of gold. Or all is forever created and creaturely, a multiverse without a manual in which someone who is not you, but an exact replica of you, is holding a book in a room or a public space or a mode of transport that is not where you are, but is an exact replica of where you are, on an earth which is not the earth, but an exact replica of the earth on which you stand as if on an uninhabited plain. And it is not a distancing to compare, not a photo, not an image, and there doesn't seem to be direction, though there is wind. There is no time, but the light remains. No one is weaving a great shroud, and no one is unweaving a great shroud, but the weave is present because it is thought about, and the weave is taught. If you look, I have turned to face your shore, and have come from far away, composing a path of words or a word thread in which perhaps we share a hope for others, even if they are half dead and lying between us. We recognize them in their shredded clothes, in the tintypes or live feeds, and reach out to wipe their brows. Not there. Thin air. Sunlight piercing oxygen clean through, we are imagining again that we are no one in every variety of nuisance of no one, and so we are kind of allied and following a conversation made as we are of molecules and lament where an intelligence lives. And whether I am on the replica of that intelligence or on the intelligence itself, it is no matter. We stand as if on an uninhabited plain, and it is not a distancing to compare, not a photo, not an image, and there doesn't seem to be direction, though there is wind. There is no time, but the light remains, and you do not look back. A rose for a rose, a dog in the yard says to a dog in the yard, who says precisely, and a panther's cries are like glinting shards of sun shuffling the river, especially if you try to think of the government without the government lens. I thought it was a conceptual piece to walk up and shit upon, said the dog in the yard to the bent figure, who then whispered it to the name Lord, then to the tired automaton working his gait, working his high color, striking a match along his zipper. All the doodah day. Are you in a state of grace? Be careful. It's a dangerous answer, urged our toad, speaking to Joan. Let's see. Frequently, handsome dead man knew a way out. Faint blue nightlights as on a runway of black rubber matting. E, he'd call out, then R, he'd hoot softly. Each would arrive to follow him along the corridor, and once out of sight, they would anoint themselves with oil, making the wild beast, almost naked, just a scrap or two from costume, for when they were called back. And this poem is called Brad and Angelina. And you know the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? Okay. To not have the actors get acquainted before they shoot, so awkwardness of two characters feels like awkwardness of two characters in marriage therapy makes good disturbance in the field. Genius on director's part. Both hired assassins, unbeknownst to each other, assigned to kill each other, is marriage. I've missed you, honey. Lit Metropolis is writing and could get to be event if Brad and Angelina would just get out of the way of tiny pinholes in the social mindscape. Angelina's critiqueless good thighs making fine urban murals. Papa Daddy, you coming to me now. Angelina occurring. Brad floating by, no time even, high and dry. It is best to be the subject, not just about it. A kind of prayer one utters silently, then enters like Angelina's faint vagina musk, Brad's sheep a-leaping. Why do they walk the walk and talk the talk that they are taller than we are? Their heads brush the rain. The voice tells us, Brad, seaside villa. The faint vagina musk, the penis smoothness, enormity of places, people, and things. To dare to put your own hands on your own hips and stroke her shoehorn, the breathless breasts and wild rock, the Brad that is the equal of the cliff head of cheatgrass, the hinged panels of the human hand. Unpeopled climbs the steeple, a pulley system, Angelina's lips parting and coming together again in a scarlet lake, in the expanding of time by the internal proliferations of Oriental storytelling, a clown shaking his own hand and slapping his own butt. Say, ever been in this part of the country before? Inquires Brad. Huge smoke drag trailing out of his nostrils as a bloody murderess hobbles out of her ram charger into the vet clinic to loot supplies for her wounded leg, giant grasshopper lighting on the white hood of the ram charger, gold sun on the grasshopper's tough and pliant breastplate. Would you rather A, love an enemy, B, dream of dishonor of a loved one, C, exhibit fatal ambition by duty to country, D, talk crops or play jackknife? Asks the half-clad native girl, resolutely placing her spear into the mud, so that all night long a rain falls down and refreshes the field. Okay. Let's see. The next poem, I'm trying to think if I'm going to leap here or not. This is, okay. This poem is called Pretend You Don't Know Me, and this poem you get Miss Jane Sloan, who's a writer, remember, and Handsome Dead Man, and they kind of are a pair frequently in the book. And Handsome Dead Man wants nothing more than for Miss Jane Sloan to recognize his presence, to know that he's there, and he often can't pierce through her own sort of narcissism as a writer, to get through to her. And so, anyway, pretend you don't know me. Miss Jane Sloan, attending close her prose, ignoring all else, hypnotized by the silent vibrato it made in her throat. Handsome Dead Man thinking, I must get away from her. I must return to my personal torture. My personal torture is not your personal torture, and for this I hate you more. In the tink-tink of the cafe, spoon vibrato, forks clanging politely, the china, the porcelain, formica, and wood, chit-chat twittering under sudden outbursts of laughter. The happiness of this world, they cannot get all of it into a can. The international language of the mouth, the immense thing of, how can someone sit right next to you and pretend they don't know you? How can you, all the years you have carried your boxes of literature from one apartment to the next, pretend you don't know me? Says Handsome Dead Man out of his so-called body in the house Miss Jane Sloan has in mind to build. Pretend you don't know me with your checkered cloths and coffee mugs, your blush of the apple in the phantasmagoria unstirred in which we take the morning air. A generation tired of its head which understands everything. Stein drinking her oolong. Tiger licking his paws, biting his tail. Dear Plot Genie, how much longer until someone bursts open, someone done reading your book and obeying you? This is a very short poem. It's just 2 lines long. Dear Master, I am the master. Okay, and this is called It Would Be Good If We Had a Message Box. It would be good if we had a message box, but we have only a repetition compulsion. For example, once I woke up and Handsome Dead Man was lying in the bed next to me. End to end and semi-automatically we rose, strode forth like we were the whole earth together. We swung from a rope into a murky pond. We made light of a raid of his flattering offers. Someone wanted to inveigle him of his disease genes. Someone wanted to discredit him of his stronghold, starve him of his air supply. One day, he was just a man, Rasputin, tying his shoelace, deep, glowful eyes, almost counterfeiting nature. A Hun in a blank photograph, a Marine getting a discharge. Then I saw it, this world, empty of the men supply. Redhead was knocked into the middle of next week. She was leaving a task unperformed, a duty unfinished. She was suspected of crookedness. A friend stood in the way, blocked by inclement weather. So long, so long. A girl with a red cape on horseback, galloping into a forest, galloping in. When E had a chance to turn around, she was sweeping a slaughterhouse, pretty dead end, trying to make with the regular appointments. When centuries fill the mind in, it's a big town for possible imprisonment and shopping. Invasion of a field, a page is an escaped hospital of experience, visibility of viability, of grass in the leaves wet, Leopardi's back curved high over his infinitely skeptical hill, its sighs and plaints. We follow him down out of the doleful city. Paradise, I feel more at ease in interstitial tissues of the mental circuits that capture and link. Paradise, I feel ease. Into the iris of tiger, it would be good if we had a message box. Okay. This is sound of freeways directing the cosmos back to its start. Death's got some spiraled plenitude in the distance between clocks, both a velocity and a stasis at large. A fly curves its legs in dioptrical, tense moments of rest on the windowsill. Try not to stare at the white tiles in a urinal and think, what are you doing here, postcard face, postage stamp face? Both believing and disbelieving, a harder time can come, which keeps believing around. In the amniotic first few moments of the film arrive the windshields we can move in. Hot, cold color smears of full-length characters drawn in master stroke suck in the cul-de-sac's diurnal rotational breeze, the certain blonde dream of the sun going down and the gates opening up. A modesty, the nice folks returning to nice homes, a little more tired, no one dying miserably of too much Williams. A willow, bay bark underneath, wet pulp inside, twisting up to night sky. Do you still have that project? I no longer have a project, but if you had a project, we could blow them toward one another. Let me entertain you. We are here to entertain, to hold the black whips, to embroider the day of the week so as to assign it to the towel. If it's morning, what to read, cut off, wave, tie to the emergency cone. Or if you are waking in the audience, what small clearings will you make to rest from those of us in paradises and hells also? The ecstasies of clover sprouting near manholes amid the thrown down tissue through which we feel we can see it all. The hillock, a tall oak makes a shade above it, and propped up against the trunk reclines a leisured figure into which we can climb back in and read toward the tonal promises and geographical distances connecting inside our ears at the end. The dead, dark stallions the world lets go into meadows, the man turning into a boy walking through those archways as we watch, holding his hat on a dirt road, hearing ourselves implore a strutting mystic whose trading hand is broke. Someone adds elements to the sentences the way a girl out west just laughs. We had lyric time. We had pylons and pylons of it. Under low-lying reefs of cloud, the 8 notes necessary for infinite melody, a convective heat event. The faces swirling, the little hands uncurling, resuscitating to stay the world of awe. The tiger sleeps until it is hungry, and then the tiger hunts. Okay, and I will close with This is a poem in which E and R meet on the sly and make an oath to one another. And the poem's called E and R. If you really love me, then let's stand together, off to the side, near the realities, away from the microphones, and make our troth. Okay? Okay. Good. Repeat after me. I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you as if you were my last. Oh, I like that. You like it? Then say it. I'm gonna love you as if you were my last, under lightly surging curtains by large invisible windows within the pool's light. Okay? Okay. We are dust collection. We are dust collection. You shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor. Who shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor? We shall be two events at the same time, unbeknownst to any or all who are watching. By your hands, I can tell you are a traveling man. You are fully mingled with the one who has your face. Tigers can help you get out of your predicament. If tigers can help you get out of your predicament, I'll wait for you in the first guest house cabin near the white weatherboard. Now listen and repeat what you hear to yourself silently. A girl sat in the woods, feeling lonely and sad. A bird, who had been watching the girl, lowered herself to the girl's shoulder and said, "Just say nice things to yourself out loud." It is fun to imagine that you are the turtle on a warm rock. Enjoy breathing. If the color is red, let it travel up your legs. Let green explore your temple, blue may swirl around your forehead, relieving you of all thoughts. We may remove our shoes and put our feet in the warm water. Today we are like the Mongols, heading terrifically westward, riding horses with our feet. Today we may remove our shoes and put our feet in the warm water. Today we pull our blue jeans down from a branch. Remember Berlin in 1919. Try to remember Berlin. Cherry tree, hussy, caution tape, 1 Grammy, 1 daytime Emmy. Our great bodies, our heads, as a boy sits watching a quiet pond. His eye seeks yours in an eye-to-eye handshake and holds it there as before death. Tigers can help you. You are not a sick individual or a realm. The turtle, curious, also puts his feet in the water. If you really love me, our great heads, our bodies, conceived in the chasm of a rental car, are a golden chariot before it all flew away. Thank you very much.